Hello and welcome to my show Indus Cuisine, and I'm your chef Basim. Akhund. We're back with a new episode from the heart of Pakistan. Today's recipe is very interesting, and this recipe has originated from the deserts of Pakistan. We're teaching you the recipe known as Laal Maas. Which is in the province of Sindh, is known as the Cholistan Desert. This desert has a very famous city called Umarkot, and this city still has a castle where the people who rule this city, or you could say the royals of that city, still live over there. It has a very important significance to that area. Why? Because people who fought for the independence of Pakistan, the royal families of the Umarkot city, still live there, still reside there, and they still follow all the royal traditions in those areas. Even when people are married over there, you'll see that the way that marriage is celebrated is very authentic. The people living in Umarkot are also Muslims and also Hindus, and they all live together. And the people of this castle or this fort, the Umarkot fort, are the Karni family, which are still living there, and they still celebrate all the functions in Pakistan, and all the people from that region become a part of all those festivities. Now, what does Laal Maas mean? Laal means red in Urdu, Maas means meat. And when we talk about Laal Maas, it means either lamb meat or either beef. So today we're teaching you how to make it with beef without the bone. It's a very easy recipe, but there are a little different things to be followed in this. And firstly, what we'll do is we'll bring a small pan to heat. And once this comes to heat, what we'll do, we'll add a little bit of water. So we'll add some water in this, let's say around 2 cups of water. I'll bring this over here. And why are we adding water in this? I'll let you know. So when you add water, what happens is basically you bring it to boil. I'm just joking. The only thing you need to do is over here, you will take some red chilies dried and add it over here. You have to boil it. They are at least 15 to 20 pieces of red chili. And on the other hand, what are the ingredients for today? You need around 1 kilogram of beef. You need 2 onions, which I'll finely slice and use later on. Then you need some coriander fresh. You need around 1 cup of oil. You need some ginger, garlic. You need some green cardamom, you need black cardamom, you need cumin seeds, not cumin powder, salt to taste, coriander powder, you need green chilies, and in the end you need some yogurt. So what I'm doing over here is I'm going to bring this red chilies to boil. What will happen is they will rehydrate. Once you dry a chili or a herb or something you eat, they get dehydrated because of the sun or because of the dryness or the heat. When you rehydrate them, they'll obviously gain in size, and then we shall de-seed all of them. Why? Because if you add all of this green chili in the food, you will literally fall sick because of the heat. So for that, you need to boil it, bring it back to size, cut it, and de-seed them. Laal Maas means that the color needs to be red, and the only way you can get red color is through the red chilies. Now you need to understand one more thing, that the spice or that thing that burns your tongue is not the skin of the red chili, it's the seed. So once the seed goes out, there's only flavor or the aroma of the red chili, and you can enjoy the recipe without any spice content to it. Okay, this is done. I'll just shift it over here, increase the heat and reduce the heat over here. So now we need to prepare the meat. For that, you need to pick up the meat and you need to start cutting it in small pieces. I'll just take around 1 kilogram of meat. You need to make sure that if you washed the meat, you need to dry it properly. I've dried it. It's just little moist. That's all right. Okay, so what we'll do is first we'll make some pieces of the meat. You need to remember that the size of the meat needs to be almost the same so that the cuts are the same. As you can see, this is a little thicker. So what I'll do is I'll just cut it from between like this, and now make some pieces. For this, firstly what you have to do is you have to pick up a cooking hammer and bash it down so that it gets soft. So now what I'll do is I'll just bash it down. As you can see, it's flattening out. So once it's flat, I'll show you one thing. The other side of the meat is flatter as compared to this. Why? Because the pressure was going over here. I'll keep this on the side and do this for the other pieces also. We'll be using the side which has some bristles on it. And the reason behind doing this is that it makes the meat really soft, tender, and easy to cook. So the cooking time also reduces, which is very important nowadays. Why? Because you do not have time when you're cooking meat. The reason behind that is because everyone's working now. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll show you a few pieces of how to cut it, and then I shall show you the final look of it. So I'll be cutting strips of the meat, and I'll be keeping it over here in front of you. So just keep the pieces equal and make sure that they are equal wide. The reason behind that is once you start cooking it, you need to remember one thing. If the pieces are equal, then only they will be equally tender. Why? Because the cooking time starts varying if your pieces are uneven in the thickness. And this is almost done. So I'll do all the other pieces and then I'll show you the final look. So now you need to put the meat in the pressure cooker. So what I'll do first is I'll bring the pressure cooker, place it over here and increase the heat. I'll be adding around a liter of water, not too much, remember that. And once the water comes to boil, what I'll do is I'll add the meat. So I'll just pick up the board, place it at the back momentarily, and on the other hand, I'll pick up another board and keep it over here. We need to add a few things in the pressure cooker so that the broth is fragrant. This recipe will be made with the stock of the meat, remember that, and for that you need to add a few things. So firstly what I'll do is I'll pick up 2 pieces of the green cardamom I'm using in this recipe. I'll just place it here and I'll just put it in the cooker. This goes in. Apart from that, I'll place one more piece of the black cardamom. I'll press it down and I shall add it over here. The reason behind me pressing it is that the seeds will be released and the water will be more fragrant, remember that. On the other hand, what I'll do is I'll pick up a piece of garlic and I'll just place it inside without crushing it. Why? Because I don't want the intense flavor of garlic to be in this water. I'll pick up some garlic, which is done, and then I'll pick up some ginger. I'll slice it into 2 halves and I'll add it over here. Why? Because eventually once you cook it, the fragrance will always release over here. And then I'll pick up the meat and I'll add it in the water. The meat goes in and you have to boil it for 15 minutes once the whistle starts to blow. I'll rinse my hands and then I'll close the pressure cooker. Why? Because I would like to avoid cross-contamination, and that's the reason why people at times fall sick. So everything's ready over here. The red chilies, as you can see, I'll show you in a bit, they have rehydrated, and on the other hand, the water is also ready. So add around, you could say, half a teaspoon of salt, not too much, and then give it a lid. You want to season the water properly, always remember that. Place the lid on top, reduce the heat, press it down, and it's done. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll show you how to take the seeds out of the red chilies. I'll drain the water over here first. And now place the red chilies on the board. This is a little labor intensive, and yes, the other thing also is that it is a little technical. Why? Because firstly, once you start touching the red chilies, please don't touch your face or especially your eyes, or otherwise it will burn a lot. You'll take a piece and then you'll just open it slowly like this. And what I will do is I'll just use my hands. Why? Because it's so soft now that you can just simply tear it apart. Slowly and gradually I'll do this for all the pieces. It is a little time consuming, and as you can see, there is a little bit of water here. Why? Because as I told you, the red chilies did soak some in. You will just be using the skin of these, not the seeds. And remember, do not touch your eyes now, because the amount of spice which is on your hands is insane. Why? Because these little small things are filled with chilies and they can create irritation on your skin if you touch it. Your hands are luckily made by nature in a way that they can bear a lot of other things that your face couldn't, or your arms or your other parts of your body, your neck couldn't. So it's fine till here, but always rinse your hands properly and very quickly. So I'll do this for all the pieces and then we shall just de-seed them. So once you've peeled them or made that slit with your hand, now just slowly push the seeds out. You just have to press it from one side and pull it from the other. Remember, the ones you're cleaning should go on the other side so that you do not mix it. Always keep the seeds on one side and the skin on the other. A little bit or a few seeds might go or stick to the skin. That's all right, that's not a big deal. But major or the most of the seeds should be taken out slowly and gradually like this. So now that the seeds are on one side, what I'll do is I'll just pick this up and I'll throw it in the bin. Why? Because you don't want these to be lying anywhere around you so that you don't mix it up again. So I'll just discard them over here. Rinse your hands once properly, not with just water, but with soap. And then I'll tell you what to do next. So now what you have to do is you have to finely chop this. The reason behind also boiling the red chilies was that if you try chopping the red chili, if it's dry, trust me, it won't chop. And you won't get this fine texture which I will get from chopping them slowly. As you can see the redness going on the board. This is where the color will come from. I've taken out almost 85% of the seeds, and the seeds which are remaining in this will be used in the food. Why? Because we need that little spice element to go in. So till the time I'm chopping this, we'll go for a short break, and once we're back, I'll let you know what to do next with this recipe. Don't go anywhere. Keep watching Indus Cuisine. Welcome back. You're watching Indus Cuisine and I'm your chef Basim. Akhund, during the break I just did one thing you could see over here. I've just really finely chopped the red chilies and converted it into a paste. Okay, now we should start cooking. We have less time and we have a lot of work to do. So I was cooking before also, but these things take a little bit of time. So bring this to heat, and once the pan is hot, we'll add some oil in it. We need around 2 onions. This recipe will be something like towards the clear soup. So take the root out and throw this in the dustbin. This goes in. I'll just sharpen my knife a little bit more and it's done. Always sharpen your knife if you think it's not sharp enough. Why? Because you will only get your perfect cut if the knife is sharpened properly. Remember that. So I'll just now go as close as I can and it's done. We'll do all of the onions like this. Turn around and just slowly and gradually cut it down. The pan on the other hand is nice and hot. I'll just add a little bit of onions in it. Done. Okay, reduce the heat. Add the oil. Let's say around 1 cup. Why? Because this recipe does have oil, as it has around 1 kilogram of beef. Okay, the pan was already hot, so we'll just transfer all the onions into it and pick them up and toss them in. We will give the pressure cooker another 5 minutes and add around half a teaspoon of salt. This is done. Increase the heat to full and give this a lid. Once you've pushed all the onion in the oil. This is done. Reduce the heat to medium. And now let the onions cook for at least, let's say, a minute. You want the onions to be translucent with a very fine brown line towards the outer skin. You don't want to make them really brown, remember that. Okay, now we'll go with the ginger. I'll take around a tablespoon equivalent and we shall finely slice it. So I'll just cut it like this. And then we shall finely slice it as close as we can. Keep it together and go super close. You want it paper thin, remember it? This is done. We'll keep this on the side for later on, and as you can see over here, the onions are almost cooked properly. Add the ginger over here and let it cook till it gives out flavor. So what you have to do is always, after pressing it in or putting it in, press it so that you don't see the stems or the sticks of the ginger sticking together. Mix it up. This is done. Reduce the heat to medium low. Now you want some garlic. I'll take around 4 cloves, medium size, and I'll keep the rest at the back. What we'll do is we shall just finely chop them. This is done. Bring it together and go as close as you can. Clean it, bring it together and keep chopping it. This is done. Scoop it up, transfer it here. Mix it up properly. And now let's start adding some other things. Okay, what I'll do now is I'll take half of the paste right now and I'll keep half for later on. We transfer it here. And we do it right now. Why? So that we can cook it properly and we can fry some of it. So mix it up in the oil. Tilt it. And you'll see that the color of the oil will also start changing. So basically converting this oil to chili oil now. You have to keep pressing it because it's really fine and it sticks together. You want it to spread out. And this is done. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll take some green cardamom. We'll take half of it now and half of it later. I'll press all of them together like this and we shall open them and place them in the oil. This is done. I've added a few pieces of the skin. Why? Because I want it to give some flavor over here. And now we shall start getting ready with the recipe. Okay, now you'll add 2 pieces of the black cardamom. And for this, I will just take the seeds, so I'll just put it over here in my hand in front of you like this. Open the other one. Some pieces are harder than the other ones. So just peel it. And now place these seeds in the pan. Try sourcing as many as you can and try not wasting them. Mix it up. And now what I'll do is I should open up the pressure cooker and then I'll show you the final look of the beef before I add it to the oil. So as you can see, I've taken out the beef. The beef is cooked properly. On the other hand, the water or the broth or the stock is also prepared. Now what I'll do is I shall change the pan to a wok. Why? Because now you need to have a deep dish cooking method going on. So I'll transfer all of this over here. As I told you, it needs to be light brown, and the color you see on the onions is also of the red chili you have added in it. This goes in. Increase the heat to full. Whatever you've used, just pick it up and keep it on the side. And the other one also goes in the sink. This is done. Now what I'll do is I shall add a few spices and reduce the heat First we'll go in with the turmeric powder. Then we shall add the coriander powder. And we shall fry the masala and then some cumin. This goes in. And now we shall increase the heat to full and cook it for around 30 seconds while mixing it. And this is done. Now what I'll do is I'll pick up this. I'll just add half a cup of water in the oil. Now as you can see, it's bubbling up. If you add too much of water in one go, it will ruin the texture of the recipe. So I'll wait for this water to evaporate, and it will evaporate quickly. Why? Because there is oil over there. And now we shall add some more things. We'll go in with the beef and we shall cook it in the minimal or the remaining water which is over there, and also with the oil. Keep mixing it. And you have to do this on really high heat. So basically we're frying the meat in the oil. I'll give it a lid and I'll fry the meat for at least 5 minutes on medium heat. So till the time this is frying, what we'll do is we'll just clean up and then I'll let you know what to do next. So it's been around 5 minutes that the meat was cooking. Now you can see over here the bubbles are just oil based. There's no water over here. So now what I'll do is I shall just add the remaining chili over here. And now I shall increase the heat to full completely. Now what I'll do is I shall add a little bit of water so that I can start diluting the chili. Mix it in so that you can give it a nice red color. Now this is done. Now what I'll do is I shall add the remaining things. I shall add a little bit of beef broth, which I'll keep over here first, and we shall go in with 2 cups. Give it a lid and cook it for 2 minutes or till the time this water which you've added over here immediately starts evaporating. We'll keep this on the side. We'll keep this over here, and now we shall just break the remaining pods of the green cardamom and we'll add it back over here. This is done. It's a little spicy when you're cooking it, so remember you have to go very slowly with this. As you can see, the water has evaporated. It's a very quick process. I'll add a little more. Keep mixing it. And now let's give it a lid. Now what we have to do is we have to add a bit of green coriander. I'll just pick up some and I'll keep the remaining on the side. We'll take out the sticks, remember that, for this recipe, around 2 inches from the end. Turn this around and go really close and finely chop it. This is done. Take the lid off. And as you can see, the oil is up again. Mix it up again and pick up another ladle of the stock and add it here. This is done. We'll add the green coriander, and now I'll add a little bit of salt, let's say half a teaspoon. This is done. We'll pick up the yogurt And now I shall start diluting it over there, but I would like to evaporate this water first. And it's almost done. So now let's start adding the yogurt, but the yogurt also goes in the same way as I was adding the broth. We'll do it very slowly and gradually. And start mixing it. The yogurt will do two things. It will give it a nice flavor, and on the other hand, the yogurt will bring the spice level down. And we have to add the yogurt and cook it till the time the moisture of the yogurt evaporates and the oil starts splitting again. You have to mix it up a little bit and cook it on high heat. On the other hand, what we'll do is we'll pick up 3 pieces of green chili and we'll just add it as whole over here. Why? The reason behind that is if you add the green chili whole, what happens is it gives it a nice flavor. On the other hand, the part of the ginger I left over here, I shall just finely slice it and then turn it around and finally chop it. We'll add this over here so that the flavor of fresh ginger amalgamates, or one could say mixes in over here. Let's just mix it up once. And now I shall dish this recipe out within a minute. So I'll show you the final look of this recipe in a go. So as you can see, today's recipe is ready. It's delicious and I can't keep my hands off it. It took a little bit of time, but this recipe is one of the most favorite recipes of the people who live in the desert area. And basically nowadays there is no desert area as such, but it's an area where there is not a lot of cultivation regarding all this natural green you see around. But there are industries over there, there are people living over there, there is electricity over there, there are all the necessities that everyone would need over there. Today's recipe is done. I'll see you in another episode of Indus Cuisine. Take care of yourself, lovely people. Bye-bye.